Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm joined as usual by Tucker Hazel, and we are here to talk about the only thing worth talking about at, let's see, 9:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on
December
on
1st.
December 1st. And that is, of course, 2021, because it is right around the corner. Thank the fucking Lord in heaven. Will it be better? We don't know. But what we do know for sure, Tucker, is that
Yes.
next year is indisputably The Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda's 35th anniversary. And Mario had plans that got fucked up by COVID, but in the end, we still got stuff. So let's assume Nintendo's got the same motions in the ocean for Zelda, which I'm sure that they do. What do you think is going to happen?
I honestly think we're in for disappointment. That's my general prediction. I mean, personally, not supremely satisfied with the offerings from Mario 35th anniversary, and
Sure.
I see no way in shit that they put more effort into Zelda's.
Well, I think we got a couple things going for us. I think the first one, of course, is that COVID will be managed to an extent by
Yeah.
then. And we do know, based on various things, that Mario's 35th was supposed to be way bigger. We were supposed to
Sure.
have various events running in other games throughout the year, whether you're talking Smash tourneys or, Animal Crossing stuff, which we haven't even gotten those Mario Animal Crossing items yet,
No.
or Mario Maker and such of them. There was stuff planned for the 2020 Olympics with Mario in Japan. There was Super Nintendo World's opening. There was a lot of stuff that got messed up. But of course, what's most important to me is the games, and what we got from Mario was a lot of recycled content.
Hmm.
So I think the number one thing is that we're going to get more things that don't actually matter to us. We're going to get
Yes.
more events. We're going to get more showcases.
Hmm.
I wouldn't even be surprised if we got some kind of maybe digital orchestra like they've done in the past, where they've got people performing Zelda
I
music.
I went to that. I went to the Zelda Orchestra.
That's awesome. I've never
Yeah.
gotten to go. That's actually
I've
really
also been
really
to the
cool.
Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions Orchestra. Both of
That's
them are
awesome.
awesome. Yeah.
So I think we could get stuff like that, and I think we will. But what's most interesting to me, of course, is the games, and I'm sure you agree. And I think we're in for a lot of old content coming back.
Hmm. Unfortunately, and for I would say most people, I don't think that this is going to be the comprehensive celebration that we're hoping for. But from my perspective, as a young, blooming, fresh-faced Zelda fan, I'm kind of excited for any of that happening. I
Sure.
just hope it's not Mario 3D All Starsified, if you will, to create a new term, but by which I mean just really basically packaged and low effort. I really hope that there's some sort of sprucing up of it to make it feel a little more celebratory.
In terms of that, I think that a lot of people are looking at the idea of like a Zelda 3D All Stars because we got a Mario 3D All Stars last year. I don't think that's going to happen
Mm-mm.
because I think you got to look at the landscape of all the content that's available. What I think we're going to get is a lot of probably individual piecemeal ports.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really think that the Wii U Zelda games will come over, being Twilight Princess HD, Wind Waker
Yes.
HD. The question is if they're
The quote
bundled,
unquote Wii U Zelda games.
quote unquote, which are excellent versions of those games, easily the best version of both.
Hmm.
Some people are like, it'd be cool if we got a combo pack. I don't think that would happen.
No.
I especially with those Zelda games, those are gonna be
They're
sold
they're
individually.
so disparately and thematically different. Like I really just don't see them packaging those together. Of course, saying like, "Hey, look, you remember those two that were great on Wii U, good on the consoles that they were originally on. They're now on Switch. Fucking have a field day." But I really don't see a packaging that's got a slice down the middle, Team Sonic Racing and Banana Blitz style for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
Well, I mean, the games in Mario 3D All Stars are very disparate, and they actually
Sure.
have a much wider disparity than these games do because you got to keep in mind these were both GameCube titles to an extent.
Hmm.
Twilight Princess might have its identity more with the Wii, but that was a GameCube title first and foremost. So you could put them together, and I almost think that we might get something similar to what we're getting for Fire Emblem in the Acre of Apples at the end of this week, which is
Hmm.
like a nice, interesting collector's piece. I could see those games being put together and some different scaling bundle options. But then those games are so new and they've got so much revenue potential having only released on Wii U that I think they're going to want to sell those full priced by
Oh yeah.
themselves. At the same time, though, I think that the emulators built into 3D All Stars
Hmm.
and what Nintendo's done with Fire Emblem suggest that probably Ocarina and Majora will come over also. But
Yep.
I think that those would also come over piecemeal, similar to what we got with Fire Emblem. I mean,
Mhm.
dropping those for $10 each on the eShop is such a no-brainer move. And even if Nintendo has to be dragged into it, any kind of piecemeal virtual console support I think is good. So having those games on Switch, I think is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to play both of those games. I think when I think in my head, okay, I want to play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I personally gravitate towards the 3DS remakes of the two because
Yeah,
of the quality of life enhancements, because of the visual enhancements and all of that. And I don't think that those versions are coming over,
no.
as unfortunate as that might be, because we have the N64 emulator that has been prepared for Mario 64 and the 3D All Stars collection, as you were saying. But yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit unfortunate. I would say I'm glad that they're coming. I really hope that there would be some way for us to get the better versions of those games if they had to do reworks for the 3D versions of the two of them from the 3DS, because those are the better way to play those games, and we have seen better ways to play those games. So just getting them in that slightly upresed, maybe not even widescreen version like we got with Super Mario 64 would feel, as I was saying before, like that sort of low effort, like, here you go, buy it for probably more than they probably should be charging for it.
Well, it's interesting because Ocarina of Time has gotten a pretty objective upgrade to the 3DS version. A lot of people prefer the N64 version of Majora's Mask in terms
Interesting.
of
Okay.
aesthetic and some gameplay changes. So I think that there's more of a justification to have that one on Switch outside of just a practical, hey, we have this framework, it's going to be easy to bring these over.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think that those games will come to Switch. The big questions, of course, are Breath of the Wild 2 and Skyward Sword HD. And Skyward Sword HD is basically one of the most persistently rumored games, right up there with Metroid Prime Trilogy HD.
Mhm.
So how are you feeling about that?
I mean, here's the thing. That is from my perspective, enigma of the mainline Zelda series. It's only been on one console. There's the Becky FaceTime that I was expecting. But I'm sorry, Becky, if you see this, I apologize. But Skyward Sword, I think, is the one that deserves that second chance. I think that a lot of people's issues with it come from the fact that it was so motion controlled oriented, and if they did reworked it for Switch, I feel like it really could get that breath of fresh air, and people would probably be a lot more receptive to that game, especially because the Switch is doing so well. So many people have that, and they're looking for a rebirth of the Zelda series to new audiences on Switch now that Breath of the Wild is so popular, pulling in new fans. I'm actually very excited for the possibility of Skyward Sword, especially because that game still sells for essentially full price if you're trying to find a fucking Wii copy. So yeah, that's honestly the thing I'm looking forward to the most. I'm I'm a little bit skeptical of it. I mean, we hear these rumors, but those are really weird background rumors that have been fluctuating for
Yeah.
years. So who knows? I mean, that's just one of those obvious things, but I feel like it might be obvious in the way of Nintendo wanting to be weird and not giving us exactly what we think we're gonna get.
Skyward Sword HD would be strange, but also very fortuitous because that was the game that celebrated the 25th anniversary of Zelda back in 2011. So next year is not only the 35th anniversary of the
True.
entire series, but the 10-year anniversary of Skyward Sword.
Yeah. Shit.
So that does line up really nicely from a marketing and optics perspective.
Yeah.
And consider the fact that Grezzo finished Link's Awakening, they're probably working on something, and Grezzo is, of course, Nintendo's studio who has primarily ported Zelda games, ported and remastered Zelda games,
Hmm.
being Ocarina, Majora, and then Link's Awakening. And they did some co-development work on Triforce Heroes and developed their own game in Ever Oasis. They also did the Luigi's Mansion port. The fact is, they're pretty versed in moving Nintendo's games to various hardware,
Hmm.
especially Zelda. My hope is that Grezzo is just finally allowed to make their own Zelda game. I think that's way more
That'd
interesting.
be very cool.
And considering they're versed in both 2D and 3D Zelda, I think they could be very flexible. I'd love to see them take on a 2D Zelda, maybe even a co-op 2D Zelda with the Joy-Con. I think that the appeal
Sure,
is baked
yeah.
in right there. And considering Numa's got Breath of the Wild 2 cooking, it'd be really cool to get, a brand new 2D Zelda in this ilk. But just the convergence of factors makes it seem pretty likely to me that they would be working on Skyward Sword HD.
Sure, yeah. I mean, honestly, you bring up a good point of their being other kinds of Zelda games in the works. Because we've gotten the remakes and we've gotten Breath of the Wild, but it's been a while since essentially anything else. No, when was the last 2D Zelda game, like new 2D Zelda game?
Uh,
Five
try
Heroes, kind of.
Triforce Heroes in
Yeah,
2015, but that was spin-off. It
yeah,
was it
exactly.
was a Link Between Worlds in 2013 was the
Sure.
last core
Yeah.
2D Zelda.
So I'm thinking just fluctuating, speculating, all sorts of words in my head about. I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming next year, and I think that would not only give them more development time if they pushed it back a year. I think it was probably originally planned for last year or for next year. COVID happened, working on the 35th anniversary. I think next year they promote re-releases of games, maybe the HD for Skyward Sword, and then something else that's a new Zelda, but not necessarily Breath of the Wild 2. That's personally my prediction.
I think Breath of the Wild 2 is a guarantee for 2021.
Hmm.
Because I think the X factor is the Nintendo Switch Pro, Advanced, SP, fucking new, special, whatever it ends up being.
Sure, sure.
Having a Zelda game with that is important. And if it's going to be more powerful, I think you want something that pushes the hardware. And Breath of the Wild pushed the hardware already.
Hmm.
And Breath of the Wild 2 is obviously going to do that. And that's going to generate sales.
Yeah.
Because Skyward Sword's not gonna move units the way that a Breath of the Wild
Of
2
course
does.
not.
And outside of it being an anniversary celebration, that is a pivotal game for Nintendo to because the Switch is selling meteorically well. But
Mhm.
if you want to get that exponential curve a little bit steeper with a new hardware SKU, you're going to want to pair that with really compelling software. And nothing Nintendo has from a mainstream perspective is more compelling than Breath of the Wild 2.
Mhm.
So I do think we are going to get Breath of the Wild 2 next year.
I would love that. I mean, I am of the mindset that the game was probably announced a little bit too early.
Yeah.
I honestly, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm pretty skeptical on the Switch Pro of next year. We've gotten these rumors for fucking ever. Like, I don't think our rumors of it releasing next year are any more concrete than they were saying. People saying the Switch Pro was releasing last year and this year. Like, those rumors have just been going around, and I don't know. I feel like if they wanted to, they could do that in 2022 and release Breath of the Wild 2 along with that. And again, as I was saying, focus on that whatever extra Zelda game and their ports and their remasters and such for the 35th anniversary celebration. My only thing is just that Breath of the Wild 2 would overshadow so much of that other Zelda content. Of course, it's 35th anniversary. They want to be promoting the series. I think that promoting its legacy is would just be overshadowed by a new game.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you position it, right? I mean, those games make a splash regardless. But at the same time, the new content's way more exciting and more
Yeah, I
important,
know. Of
frankly.
course.
So I don't think you need to worry about that overshadowing the other stuff if it's what the focus should be on anyway, is my point.
Yeah.
You can put out digital re-releases of these Zelda ports whenever you want to, right?
Hmm.
That's fairly low energy, fairly low resources, but very high in return no matter when you put them out. And if you release Breath of the Wild 2 in let's say it either releases in March for the Switch Pro or in November with the Switch Pro,
Hmm.
well, in either March or November, whichever one the Switch Pro doesn't release in, put the Zelda ports there.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like people are gonna be like, 7 months ago I bought a Zelda game, or 7 months from now I'm going to buy a Zelda game, so I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
Okay.
buy one now.
Sure.
There's a lot of space in a year, especially for a franchise as lucrative as Zelda.
Yeah.
Of course, my perspective is colored a little bit by the fact that I am tired of Nintendo's emphasis on legacy content.
Hmm.
I think that the 25th anniversary was an excellent celebration because it was a front-facing celebration. It gave us Skyward Sword with a cool Wii remote, so we are moving to a new era of Zelda while celebrating the past at the same time with like the DSiWare re-release of Four Swords Adventures and with the Hylia Historia. There was cool stuff in the periphery, but it focused on where we were moving to, not where we had already been. And I think the biggest problem for me with Mario 35th is that it was where we've already been. It was going backwards.
Yeah.
And I think the best anniversary celebrations do both. They look forward, but they reflect also. So I think it would be a mistake to not look forward at the cost of looking back.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, you're making some good points. Breath of the Wild 2 is just something that I don't personally have a lot of stock in it for next year. But honestly, I could even see that being something where that's March 2022, and like they start building up the hype
Yeah,
throughout the course of the year, and then they sort of end their celebration with the anniversary of the Switch. Hey, here's Switch Pro. Here's Breath of the Wild 2. 4 years after the first one released, bam, that's the end. And I think that sort of goes with what you're saying, is that still counts as forward looking if
yeah,
they're building the hype cycle and they're announcing the new stuff. And I think that would be a pretty good middle ground where it gives the things, like I was saying, room to breathe. Say March is Skyward Sword HD, and then throughout the year sprinkle in some of the just eShop ports, and then
yeah.
November Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, March Breath of the Wild 2. That is a fucking year with its nice sine curve of ups and downs, of highs and not really lows, but you get what I'm saying. And then ending it, of course, on a banger. I think that's a pretty satisfying arc for me.
It's a satisfying arc for a larger community. I think that sounds lame, but
Interesting. Okay.
that's just because I've celebrated these games for years,
Hmm.
and it just has to be contextualized in the larger Nintendo Switch picture. And we had a discussion about this, which I still think hasn't gone up yet. We should put it up, about the way that Nintendo has been looking back so much.
Hmm.
The Switch feels more like a greatest hits machine in a lot of ways than it does a step forward. And so if because the Zelda anniversary is going to dominate Nintendo's 2021. It
Hmm.
just is. Zelda is not as big as Mario, but is one of their S tier franchises, obviously.
Hmm.
And with Nintendo's current ethos, with the way that they're pushing games, what games they are pushing, this makes sense. Um, I'm unfortunately sure Metroid will probably get forgotten about in the tumult of this, which is
The
disappointing.
shuffle
But
of Zelda and Pokemon. Mm-mm. No way. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I would love Metroid to get the attention it deserves, especially as someone wanting to get into the franchise. But they can only put so much marketing value into these anniversaries.
To be fair, the Pokemon Company will be handling the Pokemon stuff
Well, of
independently.
course.
So I think that there's room for some Metroid stuff. But of course, if the Zelda conversation will dominate the year, I just don't want it to all be rehashed content.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I sit on next year.
Yeah, I think what we came down on is that we have no fucking clue what's going to happen. Honestly, I would say I would wager a solid 50% of the stuff that we're talking about and predicting doesn't happen because Nintendo's going to fucking Nintendo and they don't care what we're predicting. They will fucking pull something out of their ass that we wouldn't even have fucking dreamed of in 20 years. So I think it'll be fun just to be along for that ride regardless, because Mario 35th anniversary was really the first anniversary I remember, Pokemon 20th notwithstanding, because I didn't know what a fucking Skyward Sword was on the 25th anniversary of Zelda. No fucking way. So now that I'm paying attention and know what the series is, it'll be fun for me to be going along with that ride. And of course, we have our content planned because we would like to review a bunch of Zelda
Yeah.
games.
So I disagree. I think everything we talked about is gonna happen.
Hmm.
I think that recent years of Nintendo have begun to kind of dispel, or at least fray around the edges, the idea of this Nintendo moving in a way that people don't expect. I think it's a combination of a more business-minded Nintendo that is focused on the safe and smart decision, in conjunction with a crop of leakers who is much more precise. So the way that 2020 got absolutely blown out, aside from Age of Calamity, suggests to me that what people are saying is probably true, and that tells me we're going to get a Switch revision. It tells me we're going to get Skyward Sword HD, and just common sense in the way Nintendo has been tracking with Mario's 35th. I think ports of the other games are basically no-brainers, especially, I mean, the Wii U's entire library, save for those Zelda ports and Xenoblade Chronicles X and some other stuff that'd be really hard to bring over. Everything's
Yeah.
here. So I think that a lot of the predictions we've made are actually very safe. I the disappointing thing is that nowhere in here am I predicting a brand new Zelda game outside of Breath of the Wild 2, which we know about.
Hmm.
I would love next year to have a surprise of maybe
Yeah.
it is something a little bit more spin-off-esque. It's a Grezzo 2D top-down co-op Zelda game. That sounds
Crossbow
really
Training
cool.
2, boys. Let's go.
But I
Ports of the
just
CDI games. Let's fucking go.
I just don't see anything. I don't see Nintendo doing anything other than the most predictable for Zelda in 2021.
Sure.
So it'd be very curious to see which one of us ends up being correct. I hope you're correct. I really hope you're correct.
Okay.
I hope our safe predictions are totally wrong, but
Mhm.
I just don't think they're gonna be.
I mean, we have this in fucking perpetuity, so we can
Yeah.
do a year in review of 2021, a fucking year and a month in the future, and say, hey, look at those morons. Look at what they thought was going to happen or not going to happen, whatever. Because regardless of it being safe, regardless of it feeling predictable, regardless of Nintendo doing what Nintendo's going to do, there's no way we're 100% correct. And something's going to happen that'll be weird. Something that we mentioned is not going to happen, even if most of it does. Something that we never would have thought is going to happen. So it'll be fun to see what it goes down.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see. Hope we get some surprises.
true. I mean, that would be fantastic. I am personally, as someone getting into the Zelda franchise, more invested in the 2D Zeldas. Of course, that's where most of my experience lies at the moment. But I just want there to be a new 2D Zelda adventure. I was looking at that Link's Awakening trailer again, and I was playing Link Between Worlds, and I was playing Minish Cap, and I was like, God damn, a new 2D Zelda on a Switch. Oh, I'm so down. New 2D Metroid. Come on, guys, just fucking give it to me.
Don't even give me hope.
I might. But on that note, I think we're about done here. You got something else to say?
Tingle's
Talking
Rosy
enough?
Rupee Land on
Oh
Switch.
shit. Let's go for it. All
I
right.
think that's it.
Yep, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Please like this video. We've gotten a good crop of new people invested in our content the last few days, and why don't we keep that going? Just for fun. Why not?
I'm talking directly to you watching the video.
Me? No, someone else.
Somebody else.
Okay.
The person I'm pointing at is at the screen. Do you want to be the fucking loser who looks back on Backlog Banter's exponential growth and thought to yourself, I could have been in on the ground floor, but I chose not to?
Yeah.
Do you want to be that fucking schlub? Do you want to be the ignominious degenerate who bought Bitcoin and sold it at $14 a coin? No, you don't. Fucking subscribe.
Buy stock in Backlog Banter is what he's fucking telling you. Give us your money, you fuckers. Bye.
BLB endorses.
My name is Tucker Hazel, and I approve this message. What the fuck is that?
I'm looking at my Spotify 2020 Wrapped.
Is that supposed to be good music?
What?
Oh,
I fix my lighting. Hold on.
my bad. I mistook it for bad music.
Oh, right. Listen to your fucking Smooth McGroove Minecraft music, you loser.
Fuck yeah, dude.